So I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Um, so what we have covered is this question: what is Boolean algebra, logic gates, and their geographical symbols. In question one, this we have not covered yet. This we have covered. Square of opposition. Then whole of question three is not covered. Mm, Last time Dipanita explained this and the difference between connotation and denotation, and we have also covered this symbolizing the propositions. Okay, how we symbolize the proposition. Now today I have prepared a few questions. One is this: factors which will determine the mood of syllogism. This I will cover. Then last time I covered categorical syllogism and deductive reasoning. Today I will cover all these: modus tollens, dilemma, enthymeme, and tautology. Let's start with mood of the syllogism. So, mood of the syllogism is given in block 1, unit 3. Let me check. Yes, block 1, unit 3. So, this is block 1, unit 3. Yes, 3.2. Okay, mood of syllogism. Now, what is mood of syllogism? We have okay. So we discussed inference in many of our previous discussions, and the structure of inference was such that there was one universal proposition like all humans are mortal, one statement. The first statement, the universal, we always refer it to as major. The second statement here is minor. This minor statement is saying that Joseph is a human, and therefore we can make an inference that Joseph is a mortal. Okay, so last statement is known as conclusion. So we have in one of our previous discussion we have told that whenever we write a proposition like all humans are mortal, we name these proposition as a, e, I, or u. Okay, a is all, a is when all subject is predicate, all ssp type of statements. E is no ssp type of statement. I is some S is B type of statement, and E is some S is not P type of statement. Okay, so this is, we can therefore determine that this is an A type of statement. Joseph is a human. There is one Joseph. Okay, one Joseph which is a human. Therefore, it is I type of statement, and Joseph is mortal is I type of statement. So, so we can. This is a structure in which first statement is A, then I, and I. Okay, this AII is known as mood. There can be 64 kinds of mood. Let me show you one thing. Okay, like this. Uh, let's consider this inference. This is A type of a statement. All rocks are hard. This is E type of statement. This is the major preposition. Okay, the major premise. This is the minor premise that no rocks are liquid. Okay, okay, so because it is no here, and all rocks are covered, or not some rocks are covered. uh, so therefore it is E type of statement. Therefore the conclusion, some liquid things are not hard. Okay, let's not jump on to the conclusion, if this conclusion is valid here or not. Let's just study the structure of the statement. First is A, then E, then I. This AEI is known as mood of the argument. Okay, so there are four type of proposition we know, AEIO. The first statement can be any of AEIO, the second statement can be any of AEIO, and third statement similarly can be any of AEIO. Therefore there can be four variations in first premise, four variation in second premise, and four type of conclusion. Therefore total how many moods are possible? 64 moods are possible. For example, AAA, AEE, AEI, and so on. Okay, so this is the mood of the proposition. Now we have often seen, as I said, not all inferences are true. Not maybe the structure here is true, but this inference may or may not be true. Okay, so there the validity of an conclusion of a conclusion depends on what kind of structure we are having. Okay, so there are few structures which are valid, few structures which are not. So here they have um, only shown, yeah, here they have shown which all structures are valid. For example, AAA is always valid, AAI is always valid, EAE is valid. So I said there are 64 kinds of mode, not all are valid, only these are valid. Here they have not proved that why and how only these modes are valid. Okay, this has been covered in block 4 unit 1. Like what, which mode is valid. Okay, here they have also, I think, okay, before going to the question, discussing the main main demand of the question, like what factors determine the mood of the syllogism. Is everyone clear what is mood?
Yes, Pulkit.
Sorry, I got disconnected by mistake. Okay, so okay, now coming to what determines, what are the factors that determine the mood of the syllogism. Now we know there are only 64 moods, and what was determining the mood? One, what was the kind of statement that we are using. Okay, so the factors that determine the proposition are the factors that determine the mood of the proposition. Okay, what are the factors that determine the mm, proposition like A, E, I, O? One is quantity and another is quality. Quantity means if that proposition is distributed. Distributed means are all elements of the set are covered. For example, all humans are mortals. Okay, so all humans are covered. So this is A type of a statement. Okay, this is quantity. So all humans are covered here. Okay, so for example, no humans are perfect. This is also a distributed. No human includes all humans that are not perfect. Now this is the quantity. Okay, the second thing is quality. Quality means humans are mortal or are not mortal. Okay, so this is something is or something is not. This is the quality, if something is or something is not. Okay, so quantity is, does it cover all? Let me first wait. AI propositions. There is, yeah. Here we are. So we discussed that there are four type of proposition. One is A, then E, then I, then O. Okay, so here we see that here all in as per quantity all S are covered. Here only some S are covered. So um, so there is a difference in quantity. Then there is a difference in quality. All and no, like are P or not P. So this is difference in quality. Okay, so these are the factor that determine the mood of the proposition. These are the basic factor. Then there is one more factor that determine the mood of the proposition, is the order in which they occur. Okay, like E is occurring first and then A, or first A is occurring and then E. Okay, so the third factor is the order in which these propositions are occurring. So these are the factors which determine the mood of a syllogism. Okay, is it clear? Anyone please reply. Should I also discuss which of these would be valid or why and how? Or should we continue to the next question? Hello? Should we go on to the next question? See,
Yes,
if
Pulkit, if
there,
everyone is okay, we can. Yeah.
okay,
If everyone is
then
okay
we should
going
move
with
on
the
to the
next
next question.
question, we can continue. Okay.
See, there is one more thing I just wanted to say, that we have seen 64 moods of the syllogism. However, since I said that not all are valid, in block 1, unit 4, validity, invalidity, and list of valid syllogisms, of those 64, what all, which all are valid. Here are some rules. Okay, in 4.2, rules of structure, that it must always contain three proposition. Okay, and so on. Then rule of distribution of terms. Okay, uh, like like middle term must always be distributed at least in one of the. So there are four rules. Okay, if you have any doubt which all syllogisms are true, uh, otherwise there is a simple list. Okay, we can also prove these ourselves, which of them are true. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Not going to. Okay, Govind, I think someone is Mehul is saying that some people are not unable to join. Okay, okay, Suman. Next, we will come on to this we discussed last time, categorical reasoning and this deductive reasoning we discussed last time. Let's come on to modus tollens. Okay, for this the unit is, let me see, just a second. Yeah, unit 2, categorical syllogism. Where is unit 2? Block 1, unit 2. Okay, here in 2.5, 2.5, yeah, yeah. Okay, they have discussed kind of syllogisms. Okay, there are always three type of syllogisms. Okay, one is categorical syllogism, then hypothetical and disjunctive. They have not numbered it well. Okay, the first is categorical syllogism, the syllogism that we generally call inference. Okay, like all x are y, all x are y, all y are z, therefore all x are z. This is called categorical syllogism. Why categorical? There is one categorical, then one is hypothetical syllogism. In hypothetical syllogism or this disjunctive syllogism, either this is correct or this is correct, or this is disjunctive syllogism. One is hypothetical, that if this is correct then only this is correct. Okay, in those type of syllogism there is a possibility of one being false. In categorical syllogism none of them is false. Okay, so difference between categorical and hypothetical is, in categorical both statement are true. Okay, all x are y and all y are z, and therefore all x are z. This is an a and a type of mode. Okay, a. This is just I've noticed. So we were to discuss modus tollens. Okay, so their second is pure hypothetical syllogism. Okay, PHS. As I said, what is PHS? The structure of hypothetical syllogism is, if A then C. Okay, if A then C, if C then B. Okay, if there is A then there is C, and if there is C there is B. Therefore if there is A there is B. Okay, so if then type of statement, the statements where if then type of statements are involved, that are hypothetical syllogisms. This is pure hypothetical syllogism. Next, mixed hypothetical syllogism. Okay, mixed hypothetical is, if A then B. Now if A is true therefore B. Okay, so for example, if I do my duty then I shall be happy. I do my duty therefore I shall be happy. Okay, so this is mixed hypothetical syllogism. Why this is mixed hypothetical syllogism? Because here the first line is in hypothetical mode, if then type of mode, and second is simple assertion that I am doing my duty, I do my duty. So in pure hypothetical syllogism, what was the structure of the statement? All the major premise and the minor premise both were in if then type of mode, and therefore the conclusion was if then type of mode. In mixed hypothetical syllogism, the major premise is in hypothetical mode, if then type of mode, and the minor premise is simple assertion, and the conclusion is therefore only an assertion. So this is a mixed hypothetical syllogism. I said there are three type of syllogism. One was categorical, second was hypothetical, and coming to third one. Okay, before coming to modus tollens, what is modal tollens? I thought I should discuss this first. Okay. So third was disjunctive syllogism. Now they have put here number 4. It's only because they have divided the hypothetical syllogism into two. One mixed hypothetical and pure hypothetical. Okay. So what is disjunctive? Disjunctive is either or type of syllogism. Okay, either or. What is either or? Either he is stupid or stubborn. Now, this is major premise. Minor premise is he is not stupid, therefore he is stubborn. Okay, so either or type of statement is disjunctive type of syllogism. Now coming to modus tollens. What is modus tollens? Modus tollens and modus ponens. Okay, ponens, modus ponens. These are two type of mixed hypothetical syllogism. Okay, so let me show you this type of syllogism. If A then B, A therefore B, this is modus ponens. Now consider this structure. If C then D, if not D, therefore not C. This is modus tollens. Okay, either modus tollens is short form for modus tollendo tollens. Okay, uh, let me show you the difference between those. Okay, I cannot keep them side by side, otherwise it would have been very easier. See, in the first statement, in the hypothetical preposition, see when I am taking only one statement now, then I will say that this is a proposition, this is also a proposition, and then this is conclusion. When I take all the three statements together, then this is syllogism. The structure is known as syllogism. Okay, so in modus ponens, I'm saying that this is modus ponens. Okay, what happens is, uh, in a hypothetical proposition, there is always an antecedent and then there is consequent. Okay, antecedent is A, that I if I do my duty, this is antecedent, then consequent is I shall be happy. Okay, so if antecedent is given in minor, therefore consequent. Okay, so in modus ponens, the minor is always the antecedent, affirmation of the antecedent. Modus ponens is affirmation of the antecedent in the minor. Second, modus tollens. In modus tollens is the denial. Okay, denial of the consequent in the minor. Minor is the second proposition. Okay, if we deny the consequent, then it is modus tollens. Okay, if C then D, D can only occur when C happens. If not D, then not C. Therefore, not C. Okay. So, in what is the difference in modus ponens? We affirm the uh, antecedent. In modus tollens, we deny the consequent. Is it okay? Is it okay? Anyone, please tell me if this was clear.
Yes, Pulkit.
Yes. Okay. So this is all okay. So it was only 4 mark question. You have to write it in 100 words. So I think uh, we will first write that this is a kind of a hypothetical syllogism, and it is in modus tollens. We the structure that we are following is mixed hypothetical syllogism, and then we'll write about the feature that here in the minor, the consequent is denied, and therefore this is the structure that we get, and then we can uh, give an example. Okay, for this. So can anyone give an example for modus tollens? So let this example we can actually convert it into modus tollens. This is modus ponens. Okay, and where antecedent is affirmed. Let's let's convert this example into modus tollens. Okay, if I do my duty, then I shall be happy. If, then in minor, I say that I am not happy. Okay, then therefore it means that I have not done my duty. Okay, this is modus tollens. So I think 100 words would be covered in this. Okay, this is question number 5E, modus tollens. So, did everyone understand the three kind of syllogism? One was categorical, then is hypothetical, and another is disjunctive. Okay, that was clear. There are only these three. All syllogisms can be reduced to these three type of syllogisms. Okay, so should we go on to the next question? Okay, one more thing I should tell here, that what if we deny the antecedent? Here we are affirming the antecedent, okay, and therefore the conclusion was the consequent. Okay, and in modus tollens, we were denying the consequent, and therefore in the conclusion we denied the antecedent. Okay, now what happens if we do the reverse? Either we deny the antecedent or affirm the consequent. Okay, so when this type of syllogism occurs, it is called as fallacy. Fallacy means wrong logic. Okay, fallacy of denying the antecedent and fallacy of affirming the consequent. Okay, so let's say for example, if I drop the utensil, then it will break. Okay, then here it is not a fallacy, the example that I'm saying. Okay, I'm not sure about the example, but this is this structure. If we deny the antecedent, uh, then this is fallacy of denying the antecedent, and if we affirm the consequent, this is the fallacy of affirming the consequent. Okay, I'm not able to come up with any example.
Can you repeat the statement just now you have made?
I just said that. Which statement this now? Ki if
You said, yeah.
yeah, if see what we did in modus ponens, sorry, modus ponens was we affirm the antecedent. Okay, what if instead of affirming the antecedent, we deny the antecedent? If we are doing so, if we are denying the antecedent, then uh, denying the antecedent in the minor, therefore concluding that consequent does not occur. This is the fallacy of denying the antecedent.
Yeah, so you are telling the right thing, no? You are only saying the same thing, only they have confused between the words. See, if you are affirming the whatever the thing, the terminology they have, means you are telling yes to that. That means you are denying the opposite of that. So it is the same thing.
Yeah,
Like if we are agreeing on something, that means we cannot deny of it. So same statement they have made it. So there is nothing, no confusion about it. The statement is itself very much clear.
yeah, this is clear. But the problem is here
Yeah.
they are calling it a fallacy. Fallacy is wrong logic.
Yes. Okay. And
So
tell the second statement.
therefore, they are saying that what does it essentially means that this kind of syllogism is fine, is eventually false. Okay, so
This
let
part.
me take an example. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me take an example that um, that if I throw a utensil, it will break. If I do not throw the
No, but
utensil,
then it will depend upon which type of utensil actually you are throwing. So we have to
maybe,
take something else. Yeah.
okay, maybe the
Or
logic here is
be little particular
throwing,
then. A utensil made up of
breaking.
glass or something, then it will be all right.
Maybe there are many, see, maybe there are many ways in which utensil can break. Okay, so if we throw the utensil, then utensil may break. If we keep it in extreme heat, then also utensil may break. Okay, so if we do not throw the utensil, it will not break. We cannot say this. Okay, I think therefore it is
Yeah,
fallacy
yeah,
of denying
very
it.
much clear, very much clear. Yes.
No. Now let's take an example for this. Maybe this would also become clear. Then, if we throw the utensil, then utensil will break. The utensil has broken. Okay, then as if consequent has happened, the utensil was broken. Therefore, it was thrown. No, we cannot say. Maybe other things could have happened to utensils. So this is the fallacy of affirming the consequent. Okay, there can be other ways by which utensil could have broken. So therefore, we cannot say that if utensil was broken, then it was broken only by throwing. Okay, therefore, the affirmation of consequent do not prove that antecedent has taken place. Okay, I think this is good. Let's try the same example here. Okay, if I throw the utensil, then it will break. If it has not broken, then I have not thrown the utensil. Okay, this is good. Okay, if it is not broken, then neither of the condition has taken place. Neither I had thrown it, neither I had kept it in extreme heat. If the utensil is not broken, at least I can say that I have not thrown it. So the modus tollens is good here. Okay, let's try this again in the modus ponens. If I throw the utensil, it will break. I have thrown the utensil, therefore it broke. So I think this is clear with this example, right? Both the fallacies. Is it okay?
For me, yes.
Okay. So should we go to the next question? So next is dilemma. Now dilemma is covered in, I think, unit 3. Let me check. Dilemma, yes. Okay, dilemma. What is dilemma? Dilemma is, for this I should go on to, yeah. This is one, I was seeing one video, so I took a screenshot. Okay, what is dilemma is, I think here also they have. So for um, every kind of syllogism, we have to write this symbol. Okay, this P implies Q. Okay, this, if we, okay, so why we have to write it in symbol? Because this shows the structure of the statement. Sometimes in the grammar, structure is sometimes lost, so it is always better to symbolize everything. So what is a dilemma? Dilemma is in which the first statement consists of a conjugation of two hypothetical propositions. Okay. Here the video was somewhat ambiguous on this, but I would try like to correct what is written here. Okay, the major premise is one and two combined. Okay, one and two combined is our major premise. What is our so it is a conjugation of two hypothetical premise. Let me explain. There are two hypothetical premises here. One is, if I am running, I am happy. This is a hypothetical if then type of proposition is called as an hypothetical proposition. So if I am running, I am then I am happy, and if I am sleeping, then I am dreaming. So combination of these two, so conjugation of two hypothetical premise is our first statement. They have written here one and two. In dilemma, we take the conjugation of these two as the first premise. Okay, so every time in a syllogism there are only three statements. Okay, so here you see there are four statements. Okay, one, two, three, and the conclusion. So this is not a syllogism. We have to first reduce it into a syllogism. So let's combine these two. Okay, so the first statement is a conjugation of two hypothetical premise, and the second um, proposition is an assertion. Okay, a conjugation of two assertions, that I am either running, sorry, not an assertion, it is a, sorry, disjunctive statement. Disjunctive is either or. Either I am running or sleeping. Okay, so either I am running or sleeping, therefore either I am happy or I am dreaming. Okay, this kind of statement is called as dilemma. Okay, we can write this in this form way also. Let me show you. So it is always like this. If P um, P implies Q. Okay, P implies Q. Okay, and this is the symbol for and. R implies S. R implies S. Okay, this is our first statement. Okay, then second statement is, this is first statement, and it is a conjugation because there is an and sign, conjugation of two hypothetical statement. If P, then Q. If R, then S. Okay, and the second statement is either P or, this is a symbol of or, either P or R. Okay, this is second kind of statement. Okay, this is disjunctive statement, and therefore either Q or S. Either Q or S. Okay, so this is called as dilemma. Till here, is it okay? This kind of an argumentation structure, this kind of a syllogism is known as syllogism. As I said, always has three premise. Okay, sorry, three statements. Two of them are premise and third is always a conclusion. So is it okay? Okay, so the question was only what is dilemma. Okay, so I think it would be better if we also discuss the variations of dilemma. Okay, variations in dilemma. Um First is, see, either a dilemma can be constructive or a dilemma can be destructive. Okay, thank you. Dipanita. Uh, so either the dilemma is constructive or dilemma is destructive. What is constructive dilemma? It is when we are affirming, we are in the mode of affirmation. What we did here was we affirmed either P or Q. Okay, either we affirmed P or affirmed, sorry, either we affirmed P or affirmed R. Okay, we affirmed these two. So this is constructive dilemma. Another is either we deny Q or deny S. Okay, so let's say the second statement should have, let's extend this. So let's say this was constructive dilemma. Now let's come to the second statement. Uh, let's deny Q. Okay, let's deny Q or deny S. Now, as we know, this symbol is not Q, not S. Okay, let's say this is the second premise or minor premise. This was the major premise, second was the minor premise. Let's say this was the minor premise. Therefore, we have seen in the modus tollens that if we affirm the antecedents, then we affirm the consequent. If we deny the consequent, then we deny the antecedent. This we have seen in the modus tollens. Okay, and if we do the reverse, if we deny the antecedent, then fallacy occurs. Okay, a fallacy of denying the antecedent. And if we um, affirm the consequent, then the fallacy of affirmation of consequent occurs. So those two were fallacies. Okay, now not doing the fallacies, what let's see the destructive type of syllogism, the valid destructive type of syllogism, in which we deny the consequent, and therefore our answer is not P or not R, or not R. Okay, so these are constructive and destructive syllogism. Till now, is it okay? We can take an example to explain this. Let's suppose I was actually I was writing the answer. Okay, so I prepared some example. So what example I have written in my assignment, so I will not give you, I will give you some better examples than that I have written. One is, suppose this is a COVID situation. Okay, now let's see some practical example how we dilemma occur in our personal lives. It is a COVID situation. Okay, and there is some fiscal difficulties that our government is facing. Now if it increase the tax, then the people would suffer, the rich people would suffer, those who are paying the taxes. And if it borrows more to do its spending, if it borrows more, then there would be inflation and poor people will suffer. Okay, if tax increase, then taxpayers will suffer. If borrowing increase, then poor will suffer. Either uh, government has to do its spending, so either it will increase tax or it will do borrowing, and therefore either taxpayer would suffer or the poor people would suffer. Okay, this is one example. We can this is we have explained it in a constructive sense. Okay, and affirming the antecedent. Now we can also deny the consequent. Now let's see, either the taxpayer will not suffer or the poor will not suffer. Okay, let's assume that only rich people are paying taxes. Let's assume, although it is not true. So let's assume that either uh, taxpayer will suffer or the poor will suffer, and therefore either tax would be increased or borrowing would be increased. So this is the same argument but in a destructive sense. Now is it clear? Anyway, I think we should go on to the okay. So I explained this constructive and destructive form. Okay, this is positive type or and this is negative type. Now what is simple and complex? What is complex and simple? Okay, when what I did here was uh, simple dilemma. Okay, what we can do is we can also make this argument a bit more complex. How? Let's say, wait a second. I think I have one this. This was a very good book. Yeah, this. Let me increase the size. So can you all see this? I think it is legible. Okay, so say if A is B and C is D. If A is B, then C is D. And this is the first proposition. If A is B, then C is D. What we were doing till now is if P, then Q. Now what we are doing, if A is B, okay, if A is B, then C is D. C is D. Now what we are doing here is we are making our argument a bit more complex. So our first conjugate of the, instead of writing P is Q, what we are writing is A is if, sorry, instead of writing if P then Q, we are writing if A is B then C is D. Okay, and as we know in dilemma, there are all the first, the major uh, the major premise is the conjugation of two hypothetical reasoning. Now till here we have done only one hypothetical reasoning, that if A is B then C is D. This is only one hypothetical reasoning. We need one more hypothetical reasoning, and we write the conjugation symbol, that is and if E is F, this implies, or then if E is F, then G is H. Okay, so what we have done here is, in this type of a statement, we have just taken this structure and we have expanded this. Okay, so this is this the structure would be the same. The only thing we have just made our argument a bit complex. So the first major premise is if A is B, then C is D, and if E is F, then G is H. This is then G is F. Okay, this is the first premise. But either A is B or E is F, either A is B, that is either P or R. Okay, this was our simple either P or R. Therefore, either Q or S. This was our simple dilemma. So either A is B or E is F, either A is B or E is F. Therefore, either C is D or G is H. Either C is D or G is H. So this is complex. Complex uh, constructive dilemma. And if because here we have affirmed the antecedent, A is B was antecedent, and second antecedent was E is F. If we deny, on the other hand, if we deny the consequent, okay, C is D and G is H, okay, if we deny the consequent, then what would happen is, therefore we would be denying the antecedent. A is not B, E is not F. Okay, this these two type of proposition are complex complex syllogisms. This is complex constructive, and this is complex destructive dilemma. Okay, complex destructive and complex okay. So these are four type of dilemma. So I don't think more than this would be required to be written here. Okay, it it is only about 100 words. I don't think we can write all this in 100 words. So the mainly what we are going to write is the structure and one example, definition, structure and example. I think this would cover 100 words. Okay, if this is okay, we can move on to the next question.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Yeah. For 100 marks also, are you guys are writing first definition and then structure under different headings, or short notes like usually we do, we write in a flow?
Actually, I try to cover everything. Okay, so first, what is dilemma? It is conjugation of two hypothetical syllogism, and second is disjunctive syllogism, and then there is a conclusion. Then the structure and one example.
Okay,
When
like,
I write
but
this, so
but
100
under heading or under some heading, or just a normal flow?
under heading, no heading in
No
normal
heading, no,
flow.
because in the short notes usually we don't do that, right?
Yeah, I think it's our writing style. The thing is, we should convey.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Like Dipanita is saying that she is using subheadings
Okay.
wherever necessary. So let's go on to enthymeme. So enthymeme is also covered in Unit 1, Block 3. See, there was one this interesting statement I found, that when neither unconditional affirmation of the antecedent or nor unconditional denial of consequent is possible, logician may use this route. There are some avoid there are four techniques they have given to avoid this type of a dilemma. Okay, so I think in this context it would not be fruitful. Let's leave this. Let's go on to anything I think. So what is enthymeme? It's simple. Enthymeme is incomplete syllogism. Okay, what is a complete syllogism is, as I said, in every syllogism there are always three propositions. One is the major term, second is the minor term, and third is the conclusion. Okay, what is major? That we are trying to prove. Okay, the term which contains the major term is what we are trying to prove. Both premises contain middle terms, and the minor term contain, see, I've, on several occasions I've given this example whenever I've discussed this, that where there is smoke there is fire, and there is smoke on the hill, so there is fire on the hill. What we were trying to prove here is that there is fire on the hill, and therefore fire is the major term, and the proposition containing this major term is the major proposition. Where there is smoke there is fire, this is the major proposition. The second proposition was there is smoke on the hill. The term which is contained in two premises is what we call as middle term. Let me, okay. See, okay. This is the perfect example that I can show you right now. All humans are mortal. Joseph is a human. Joseph is mortal. Now, these are two premises. These two are the premises. And last one is the conclusion. Now, we can readily see that this human term is contained in both the premises. The term which is contained in both the premises, which is helping as a bridge, which is acting as a bridge to drive us towards a conclusion, it is called a middle term. Okay. Now, what we are trying to prove is that Joseph is mortal. Joseph is the subject of whole of syllogism. So the term containing Joseph is the major term, major proposition. And the second proposition is therefore here. This second proposition is no, sorry, I had made a mistake here. We are trying to prove that Joseph is mortal. We are trying to prove mortality. Okay, so the term containing this mortal is major proposition. The second one therefore automatically becomes minor proposition, and the conclusion contain only the minor proposition and the major proposition, and it is always in the form that minor is major. Okay, so this is the kind of proposition that we do in logic. So there are always three propositions, and the two premises contain minor. Now, what enthymeme is? Yeah, here. This is again block 3. Block 1, unit 3, topic number 4. Okay. So you can find it there, page number 7. So, what is enthymeme? Enthymeme is an incomplete syllogism. Okay, it is an incomplete syllogism in which one or other proposition is not stated explicitly, and instead it is implicitly understood. What do we mean by this? Is this. Suppose that this statement is not given to us. There are only two statements that are given to us. One statement is, you have hurt your neighbor, and therefore you have sinned against God. There are only two premises here. Okay, there are only two statements here. One is a premise and other is a conclusion. Now, it looks like this is not a valid form of syllogism, because syllogism has to always have three statements. In block 1, unit 4, it is written here that syllogism must consist of three statements only, not 4, not 2. Okay, unit 4, and this is from page number 2 from unit 4 of the same block 1. Okay, so therefore this looks like this is not a valid argument, but this is a valid argument. Why? Because one premise is implicitly understood. Okay, many may not understand premise. Answer statement, please explain them. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, the premise and statement, there is one subtle difference. Okay, that simple statement can occur in many forms. Okay, but what is premise in logic? It is always a kind of an affirmation. Okay, so sorry, what is proposition is, it is always an affirmation. Okay, what is proposition? That you are proposing something, that all S is P, that all men are mortal. This is a type of proposition. Therefore, as I said, there were four type of proposition. Now, these propositions can be used as a premise or as a conclusion. So, as I said in the this Joseph example, these two were the premises, that all humans are mortal and Joseph is a human. These two statements are given, and then with the help of this we are coming to this conclusion. So, the statements that are given to us with the help of which we are trying to make out a conclusion, these statements are known as premises. So these are both premises, and as I said, one of them is a major premise because here the major term is occurring, and second is minor premise where the minor term is occurring, and then finally we are proving that the minor is major. Joseph is mortal. So where minor is major, the statement which is of the form minor is major is always called conclusion. So this is logic. In logic, what we are trying to do is we are trying to reduce all of our understanding in some kind of a mathematical, yeah, reductible format. Okay, we are trying to find the crux of all our understanding. So now, as we said, that there should always be two premises, but there is only one. It only here means that one is implicitly understood. Okay, one of the premises implicitly understood. Okay, enthymeme is incomplete syllogism in which one or the other proposition is not explicitly stated, and but it is implicitly understood. Okay, so you have hurt your neighbor, therefore you have sinned against the god. It means that those who hurt their neighbors, okay, are doing some kind of a sin against God. So the major premise is implicitly understood that all those who hurt their neighbor sin against God. Okay, this is implicitly understood. So this is enthymeme. Uh, as an apparently incomplete syllogism in which one of the premises implicitly contained. So here the major premise was implicitly contained. Let's see another example. Those who hurt their neighbor sin against God. Now here this major premise is given. Major premise is given here. Okay, these two are same. Okay, so major, for example, major premise were given, and therefore you have sinned against God. What it implicitly contains is that you have hurt your neighbor, and therefore you must have sinned against God. Okay, so here minor was not contained. Let's take another example. Both major and minor are not given. Sorry, major and minor are given. Those who hurt their neighbor sin against God, and the second is, and you have hurt your neighbor, and therefore the conclusion that you have sinned against God. The conclusion was not explicitly given, but we implicitly implied it, we inferred it. Now there are three type of enthymeme, therefore. One where major was not given, second where minor was not given, and third where conclusion was not given. When major premise was not given and we had to imply it, it is called first order. When minor was not given, it is called second order. So this one is first order, this second is second order, and when the conclusion is not given, it is called third order. Where is third order? This is third order. Okay, so is it clear what is enthymeme? It is simply when one of the premise, one of the three propositions are missing in the complete syllogism, and therefore the syllogism is incomplete, and therefore we have to assume the the third proposition, that is called enthymeme. Okay. Now, opposite of this is not asked, but opposite of enthymeme is sorties. What is sorties? When more than three premises were given. Okay. Now I said that a preposition can only, is valid syllogism can only contain three prepositions. If somehow more than three prepositions are occurring, for example, here there were four type of statements. Okay, this is called as sorties. What in that case, what we do is we try to conjoin two, conjugate two. So what we did in constructive dilemma was, if P then Q and if R then S, we joined both these. Okay, so these are called sorties. So one is enthymeme and another is sorties. So is this question done? Is it okay? Should we move on to the next question? So this is enthymeme. Now tautology. Tautology actually is not discussed in our this material as a separate topic. Okay, so what I understood was from reading various portions of our IGNOU notes. Okay, the IGNOU material. So what is tautology? Saying the same thing twice. Okay, when replacing the same thing with some other thing, and both of these means have the same meaning. Let's take here uh, tautology from here. Okay, let me increase its size. I think this is legible now. So, what is tautology? Is a formula or assertion that is true in every possible interpretation. Now, suppose I try to say something, and logically I interpret it in different forms, two or more forms, and all the forms have the same meaning. It is tautology. For example, let us see. Here are some. Here are some examples. Yeah, see. Uh, see, A or not A. Okay, the formula, uh, this formula has always one preposition value. Either A is or either A is not. Okay, so saying this, that either I exist or I don't exist, it just doesn't mean anything. Okay, when we are not adding any new meaning, it is called tautology. Let's see this. A implies B if and only if no B implies no A. This is modus tollens. Okay, if A implies B, then not B implies not A. Okay, is nothing but modus tollens. Both of them are actually conveying the same thing. So we can replace this kind of logic with this kind of logic. Okay, so this is a tautology. So no new meaning is added here. Okay, we can replace one thing by another. Let's see another example. If not A implies B and not A implies not B, if not A implies both B and not B. Okay, so the thing is either B, see, this cannot happen that either B, see, either B is or B is not. Okay, so if B is, then not A. If B is not, then also not A. Therefore, if B, therefore, it, I think, it, how is this A? I just got confused. If anyone can explain me this. I think this should have been not A. I'm not sure. Uh, anyways, I think you got the point that what is tautology when same thing is said twice. Okay. Okay, the same thing is replaced by some another thing meaning the same, which means the same thing. It is a formula or assertion that is true in every possible interpretation. You interpret this thing either in this sense, the antecedent sense, or in this sense. No, this is not antecedent consequent. Either in this form or in this form. Okay, in both form, the thing is true. The thing means the same thing. That is known as tautology. Now, mm, here I think in block four, I
Pulkit,
guess. Yes,
Pulkit, I have a question.
yes, yes.
So, does it also mean that giving a statement which is related? So, like if I say uh, either COVID will end by November or it will
Hmm.
continue.
Yeah,
So,
it is
can
a tautology.
it's
You
a
are not
tautology.
adding any new thing.
So, I'm saying the same thing, but I'm
Yeah,
giving a extension of the things. मतलब either or kind of thing. कि ये
yeah.
होगा नहीं तो वो होगा.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. Second, my question is, are we also supposed to construct a truth table in tautology? So if I'm writing this, so am I also supposed to uh,
Yes.
write a truth table, right? So if you can help to all of us with the various signs used in a truth table, like arrow mark and this thing. So consider from the very layman point of view, like so somebody already too much worried about the mathematics and the symbols, and not
Mhm.
understand why this arrow mark has been given and why this uh, v in the vertical format has been given, kind of thing. So if you just help people to also understand, all of us understand what is this arrow mark stands for, what is the meaning of this, what is the meaning of the bracket when we write in the bracket, and when we give the this kind of symbols, so what is the meaning of that. So I think that will also provide a bit clarity. Sorry, I'm just extending uh,
Yeah.
beyond assignment. So like this. Yeah, right.
No, this is not beyond assignment. In fact, there was one of the question in which we had to symbolize.
Right. I'm saying from the tautology point of view. So tautology we have described, we have given example. So first we have described what is tautology. So
Yeah.
so again, to repeat what you said, or re-paraphrase what you said, and what I understood is it's a saying same thing, or
Yeah.
saying two things, but it's interconnected, or has the same meaning, or related to one thing, or related to, or to a very simple thing, related to one particular statement. So like,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Saying the same thing twice, not
Right.
adding any new meaning.
So important is not adding any new meaning. So
Yes.
so if I say either Modi will hold a press conference next month, or
Hmm.
he will
He will not.
continue,
Yeah.
he will not, or he will continue the way he was used to do earlier without holding any
Yeah.
press. So I'm
Hmm.
saying the same thing. So it means I'm just giving you A भी हो सकता है, वो भी हो सकता है, but
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it's related to one thing, press conference, the common thing.
Yes.
So rain, again in the previous example, rain is a common thing. So to give our example, so either Pulkit will take session tomorrow,
Yes.
irrespective of people's participation or
Mhm.
response, or he will decide not to do so. So
Mhm.
common thing is Pulkit is taking class, Pulkit is explaining the things. He will do or he will not do. There is a both the
Yes.
possibilities are there.
Yeah.
We are talking about two possibilities in tautology, but related
Yes.
to one thing.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks. So just truth table in tautology. So if you can bit help us in that, I think that will be great help.
Yes. Okay. See, one is tautology and another is an inference. Okay, there are 9 rules of in. See, what I am here referring is block 3 unit 1. Okay, block 3 unit 1. The topic is proving validity using the rules of inference. Okay, here we have very good examples of tautologies. Okay, so here uh, yeah, this 1.8 rules of replacement. Okay, we will see this with here with the help of symbols. We can see what all we can replace. Okay, let's see the simplest one. Okay, what is in tautology is what we are doing is we are saying the same thing, and when we all say the same thing, we use this sign. Okay, it means, I think, what it means is identical. Yes, this is the sign of identical. So let me wait. Let me on my video. Okay, please see this video. Okay, how can we change the camera? Switch camera. Okay. Yeah. Can you all see this? Okay. There are some symbols. Okay. Like, see, you were asking, no, what, how and is written. See, this is and, or I've just extended this table. Okay. So as to put all the symbols on the same page. So one was that you asked that I should explain the symbols. Okay. So see the first symbol. SA means A is a set. Okay. Then inverted V, it means and. Inverted A means for all the values of. Okay. Now the second is the implied sign, but the arrow is on the both sides. It means if and only if A then B, and if B then A, which means both occur. Okay, it is.
Pulkit, we are looking at the rules of replacement. Is that what you're talking about? Oh,
Uh,
sorry. Sorry, no,
another,
it's, yeah, it's
another
another.
please. Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Okay, so this was the fourth. Then is if then. Okay, when this is the sign of implication. If this, then it is implied that this occurs. Okay, then this one sign I wrote extra. This is identical sign. Okay, like if here this sign was used, A is identical to B. When is A identical to B? They wrote here, like there is set A and set B, and all for all A, for all A, um, X belong to A. Sorry, for all X, for all elements name X, X also belong to A if and only if X belong to B, which means if X belong to A, X would belong to B, and if X belong to B, X would belong to X. For example, a set made of four numbers, say 1 2 3 4. Now if any of these four element belongs to a set A, then it should also belong to a set B. If that is happening, which it means that both the set A and B are identical, both have same four elements. So this is the identical sign. Okay, this is identical sign. This is not identical sign. A is not identical to B. Okay, this is a subset sign. Okay, one is a larger set, and in it there is a smaller set. Okay, but here in this subset sign there is also a equal to sign, because every set is a subset of itself also. Okay, but if say uh, this is a proper subset sign, say there is a subset which is smaller than the original set, which has less elements than the original set, then it is proper subset. There is no equal to sign. This sign is belongs to, and this in inverted E is at least one element. If we say that at least one element exists, that some humans are mortal, only some humans are mortal, then to symbolize that we will use this inverted E sign. Okay, these are the symbols. Okay, major symbols. Also, apart from this, let's close this. Let's come on to the video, the screen that I was presenting. Okay, let's come on to that. Let's get back to that. So here, apart from this there was one more sign, this not sign. Okay, this not sign, which is also used. Okay, apart from this therefore sign and this since sign are also used sometimes. Okay, so these are all the symbols that we must all know in order to explain all this. So Govind, is it clear, the signs? Now if this is clear, I will explain some rules of replacement. Okay,
Thank you very much.
so there are some 9 rules of replacement. Okay, so in this unit, in third block, in this unit, there are 9 rules of inference and 9 rules of replacement. Okay, these 9 rules of inference, no, 10 rules of replacement and 9 rules of inference. What is replacement? When we can change the same thing by another thing, which means tautology. Okay, we are not adding something new. So double negation, not of not p is always p. Okay, so this is some kind of a replacement. Let's discuss more others. The commutative law, either p or q. Okay, this is identical to either q or p. Okay, so like either it rains or it does not rain. I can also say either it does not rain or it rains. So it is one and the same thing. The similar commutative law is always also valid for what just happened here. I think both should have been end. I'm not sure. I think Upasana can help me here. Do you think this should be? Is Upasana here? No, Upasana went on then. She had mathematics as subject, so she could have helped. I think there should have been an and sign here.
Yeah,
Here
yes, Pulkit, it is P and Q is equal to Q and P.
okay. Okay. So let's come on to De Morgan's law. Not P or and Q, not P and Q is same as not P or not Q. See what happens in not type of statement is when we open the bracket, the sign goes away. The sign reverses. Now there was one more question that Govind asked, that where we use the bracket. We use bracket when we have to first complete uh, one what should I say, one proposition. Okay, so this is a complex proposition which is an addition of 2 propositions. Now first we have to complete this and then we have to complete this. Okay, there is an end sign. So in order to, it is same as Bodama's rule. Okay, why we put brackets in mathematics? Because we have to show that once we have completed one addition. Okay, so for example, if I write 5 plus 2 into 2, in order to solve this, what will we do? We will first add these and get answer 7, then we will multiply. It is only to show that we have to first complete this operation and then we will go on to this operation. Okay, so bracket is only for this. Similarly here in the complex dilemma statement, what is happening is first we have to say that a wedge b. So this is not wedge. A is b. So when is this single sign is used? When we say that if that a is b. Okay, so like humans are mortal. Okay, so we will write like this: H, humans are mortal. Arrow, mortal. Okay, suppose if I'm saying that if humans are mortal, this implies that I am mortal. Okay, this is how we will write it. Okay, this is how we will write it. if humans are mortal, this implies if humans are mortal, then I am mortal, and similarly some other statement can occur. Okay, this is how we symbolize this. This is why the bracket is used. Now in the rules of replacement, the end sign, reverses when the bracket is open. Okay, so let me, we can explain this with the help of truth table. Okay, if we form a truth table, no, like one is one, we write p, then we write q, then we write p and q, and then not. Okay, we can prove this statement with the help of truth table. Do you want, I can prove this with the, in fact, Poonam ma'am told that uh, such statements can be asked in the question, that we have to prove this with the help of truth table. Do you want? We can prove this if you want. We can. Maybe I can write it here. Let's prove it. Is everyone free? Actually, it's 8 o'clock. If okay, it's not possible. So the statement is, here, not P and Q. Oh, sorry, there was a bracket. Not P and Q. Okay, not P and Q is identical as not P or not Q. Okay, let's make a truth table here. This is P, this is Q. Now P can either be 1 or 0. Similarly, P can either be 1 or 0. Only these 4 combinations can occur. Either both are true, either one of them is true, or both are false. Okay. Now is everyone interested in this? Or this is an exercise in futile? Please someone reply. I got no reply on this. Yes. So what I'm doing here is, now this was and sign. This was and sign. So and means both of them has to be true. Even if one of them is false, then the whole system would be false. So if these two are true, then this should be 1. If any one of them is false or both of them are false, then the answer should be false. Okay. Now, if we try to conclude the not of P and Q. Not of P and Q means whatever there is here, it will reverse. Okay. So one will become, if this is true, it will become false, and rest true, because okay, because this was false. Now let's say now let's and not Q. Now let's contemplate this. Not P and not Q. What is not P? Not P here, it was 1, so not of 1 is 0. Similarly 0, and these two are 1. Similarly, we can compute for this. It would be very helpful if anyone has a doubt, he or she can quickly ask before we try to let me increase the width of the paper. Not P or not Q. Now, what OR signs means is if any one of them is true, if any one of them is true, the answer would be true. So, not P and not Q, both are false, the answer would be false. But this is OR operator, okay? Any one of them is true, this would be 1, 1, 1. Okay, you see that not P and Q is coming same as not P or not Q. We can close it by 8. You wanted to close it by 8. Okay, I will try to quickly solve it. So you understand this is De Morgan's law. Okay, this is first De Morgan's law. The second De Morgan's law is instead of this, we can also write this. Here we use this AND operator. Instead of using AND operator, we can also use the reverse. Okay, this is also valid. These are De Morgan's law. Govind, is it okay? You asked for the truth table. Anyways, so this was De Morgan's law, and we found out that this is exactly identical to this. So both these forms are one and the same thing. Similarly, transposition. If P then Q, then not Q means not P. This is actually modus tollens, nothing but modus tollens. Okay, we just discussed it today. Okay, so material implication, P implies Q, therefore not P and Q. Not P and Q means I not P. This is sorry, or not P or Q. Either there is no P or there is Q. Actually, for all of these, we can find truth table. Okay, and actually, if we think, we can also prove them all with logic. Okay, so this is see another tautology. Okay, what is it? That P is identical with P or P, and P is identical with P and P. Okay, this is the tautology of tautology. We are actually saying the same thing here. So, so you understand these are the rules of replacement. There is another rules of similarly rules of this rules of inference. What is the difference between rules of statement, rules of inference? That there are always three premises in inference, and the third point is actually a conclusion of the two. The only difference between, okay, you can find it that there are always, yeah, only in this simplification and uh, I think in addition there are two premises. Anyways, coming back to the assignment, so what we discuss is modus tollens, dilemma, enthymeme, and tautology. Okay, and another thing what we discussed was factors which determine the mood of syllogism. If anyone else has something else to discuss, please go ahead. Otherwise, it is done from my part. Okay. So, okay. I somehow got disconnected. So, okay, we should close it for now. What should we do for tomorrow? Thanks, Nias. Govindipanita, Upasana. Tomorrow I'll also try to cover that same topic. Actually, I have not uh, covered any more topic. Okay, so in the night I will try to maybe read some more topics so that I can take some more topics. Okay, so
Hello, Pulakit.
yeah,
I'm having one doubt in dilemma.
yeah,
Hello.
yes, yes, help.
Yeah. So this is CCD, that is the complex constructive dilemma, and here they are defining it through PQR and S. So do we need to go through these all things? And it is not much clear. Like, what does this PSQ and all? What does this mean?
See, let me explain.
Yeah,
So
like
what?
P1, P2. So what does these all things are
See,
indicating?
see. What we did here was P implied. See, the main structure of dilemma was uh, P implied Q. If P, then Q, and if
Yes.
R, then S. Okay, this was the major premise. Now let's come to the example
So
that they.
do we need to put any symbol between them? Like if P implies then Q and if R implies then S. So do we need to put any implies sign and write in a mathematical form or something like that?
I think it would be more clear if we do that. See, sometimes the structure is lost in the uh, what should I say, in the grammar. Okay, sometimes
Mm.
in the grammar structure is lost. So, for example, if any government wages war to acquire wealth,
Yeah.
okay, government wages war to acquire wealth. It is actually not simple. It is actually complex. How it is complex? We are using the form this. If
Mm.
government wages war to acquire wealth, then okay, then
Mm.
what is it? What
It
was it?
becomes a rough government.
It
Rules.
becomes a rough government. Okay,
No,
so
but see, no, yeah, this statement is itself not correct. Like any government, take example of China, like if even if they are wanted war to expand or whatever philosophy they are having, but they are investing money. How they are acquiring wealth? When they will take over that territory, then only maybe they will acquire wealth. But here the statement is saying any government wages war, means you are pretend or you are trying proposing war, then how you are acquiring wealth? Is it in the long term they are talking? How
no,
so
see,
this? Hmm,
sometimes what this is what I'm saying. In
yeah,
grammar, actually the logic is lost. So
lost. Yeah,
so the thing is, we just don't care if this
yeah.
is true or not. The thing is,
Okay.
we are trying to understand the structure. Why actually they have written this is because in the old days, see, even in India, the war was known as Gavishti. Okay,
Yeah,
why?
so that too, just yeah.
Yeah, to acquire wealth. War was held.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That was
so
the purpose of all those king.
yeah, so
Mm.
let's not go on to why it is
Word to
happening.
word. Yeah,
Yeah,
word to word.
let's
Yeah.
just understand the logical structure here. If P, then R. Okay, if
No, but
P,
see here, sorry, here, but like if Q and R, so what we should do? If Q, then arrow sign to R or Q plus R, what it will be? Statement form. Q is government
yeah,
and R is wealth. So government wants to acquire wealth, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
now how to put this part into mathematical form? So can we write
If
Q.
we will write this, we will write like this. So the statement, our statement was,
Yeah.
this. Let me open this. Just wait a second.
Yeah. No worry. No worry.
This was page number.
Page number 11. 1111.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will write like this, that Q, that this arrow, okay, Q
Mhm.
dash R, if
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
implies
Hmm.
that it becomes rogue government.
That is
S.
S. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the first hypothetical statement,
Yeah. Statement. Yes.
and the
Hmm.
second hypothetical statement is
And
any government wages war is either to acquire wealth or no, and the
and
second statement was if it wages war to expand territory. Now here we need more symbols. Okay, let's say that if it
wages
q1
wars.
wages war, or actually the government is the same. Okay, q
Same.
is the
Yeah.
same. Okay,
Yeah.
q wages war to expand its territory. Let's say the second purpose is to expand territory, and this is r dash. Okay, this is r dash.
Dance. Yeah, because acquire wealth is here synonyms to
Uh,
territory, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
then
It becomes
it
colonial.
becomes colonial. Okay, so
So it
let's
will become P.
write it s dash.
No, then we will write here Q. We will write here Q.
No, colonial. No, q was
Colonial is
government.
S. Colonial is
No,
S.
q was government.
Hmm. Or
Okay.
can we write in in computer we write if statement, if then.
Oh, we can do that, but the problem is in
Yeah.
logic there are always three premises, so we have to reduce this thing into three premises. One is
Okay.
p1, second is p2, and third is q, means conclusion. Premise 1,
Okay.
premise 2, and conclusion, and therefore it is we are writing like this.
Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Now it's much clear.
So similarly we
Thank
can reduce all the other statements,
all
right?
SCD and CCD, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but how we will be able to understand which symbol is here? They will acknowledge it, and which symbol they will not accept.
See, even here they have not given symbol to everything. For example, I have given here r dash and s dash.
As does. And here, no, one more thing. We need to after this writing the statement. What I am feeling, we need to tell them what is Q, what does this R
Yes,
mean, what
yes,
does this mean, Q and R dash and S dash. Then it will be more clear to them as well.
yes, 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 yes.
So in a capital bracket, we are going to write that part also. Otherwise, for them, it will be what is R dash and what is S dash.
Mhm. Otherwise, what we can do is, like
Yeah.
they have written a Q beneath the government. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can also do like that. We can give another symbol below government. They have written Q, and then acquiring wealth they have written R. Similarly, we can write here Q dash and R dash. Okay.
Q dash, but you have to tell them what is Q dash
Yes.
means. Like in the maths also we assume, no, let's assume X as this much.
Yes.
So sort of that thing I think we need to give them so that it will be more clear then. Okay, thank you.
So, Govind is saying we can start at 2. A request to each one, please read all questions and material and ask your doubt. And another thing, tomorrow I'll try to. We need volunteers too. Yes, we need volunteers. Please volunteer for other questions. What we can volunteer for is the third question. The whole of third question is not complete. So even so, if we do not cover now, so what will happen? We have to do at least two of the four part of this third question. Okay, it is four parts. So at least please volunteer for two questions. Rest we have done four questions here. So four we can write this. Okay, another we have done six questions here, so we can write any five. third question there will be a problem. So at least volunteer for the third question. Okay, I will also try. Okay, if any of the question I can do. The problem with the third question
Can't
is
hear.
the problem with third question is that I do not know from where these questions are asked. Okay,
Oh, it is not in the book.
no, it 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 might be in the book, but
Okay,
I
we
am
need to
not.
search first.
Yeah,
Okay.
we need to search. So
Okay, so
if
third A, first part I will take quantification. I will try my best. See, I will check. If it is not there, then maybe we will take help from Google
yeah,
in relation with philosophy.
yes, Govind, which topic you would like to take in third? Obviously, you should not take whole of the third question. It would be too much. Okay, okay. I will. Okay, then I will try to find answer for this. Okay, see what is the difference between material implication and logical implication. If someone can take D, then please volunteer. And if someone is ready, okay, I will go in. Okay, okay, then we can wrap up now. If anyone else want to take any of the question of what is remaining, like second part, multi-logic value of the first question, then conditional proof method, this question. Apart from the third question, you can take fourth questions A and B part, and fifth questions A and B part. Okay, so these are also not done. So if anyone wants to fill the gap, please, you are welcome. You can write it on the group that you have covered this question. And then, so Govind, should we wrap up now? Okay, I will write that. Okay, I will write that. Yes, yes, sure. Okay, then thank you everyone for bearing me.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Not we are learning from you. Don't say like that.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And if we can just get the of the session also, please, because I joined little late. I missed the initial part.
I think Govind must have recorded, so you can ask
Yeah,
him.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, thank you, Govind, if you can share it. Thank you, Pulkit.
Okay, thank you.